You tell yourself you just need a break. A quiet weekend. A little space. Maybe a good night's sleep. But even when everything slows down, the chaos stops, the noise fades. You still feel it. That subtle pressure inside. That sense that something is still not right. You go through the motions. You smile when you're supposed to. You keep up with responsibilities. But underneath it all, peace feels like a dream you can never quite reach. It slips through your fingers just when you think you're getting close. Maybe you've asked yourself, why can't I just feel at ease? Why do I always feel like I'm running, even when nothing is chasing me? Or worse, why do I feel empty, even when nothing is wrong? Leo Tolstoy asked these same questions. Not as a philosopher in theory, but as a man drowning in success and still unable to breathe. He had everything the world promised would bring peace. Wealth, fame, family, legacy. But one day, something inside him broke. He saw clearly, painfully, what most people spend their lives trying not to see. And once he saw it, he couldn't go back. In this video, we're going to explore what Tolstoy discovered, why peace keeps escaping you, and what you must understand before it will ever truly stay. Because you'll never find peace by chasing calm. You'll find it by facing the storm you've spent your whole life avoiding. If you've ever felt this quiet tension inside, this longing for something you can't name, consider subscribing. We go deeper every week, exploring truths that most people are too afraid to face. If this message speaks to you already, leave a like. It helps others find the same clarity and maybe their own path to peace. Let's begin. Atomo. Vamos agora para a part 1 do video. You'll never find peace until you understand this. Tolstoy's warning, explorando a falsa idea de paz vendida pelo mundo moderno e por que ela nunca satisfaz a alma. Part 1, the illusion of peace, what you've been told isn't true. From the time we're young, we're taught what peace is supposed to look like. It's soft music. A clean home. No conflict. A stable job. A smiling family gathered around a table. But if you've ever had all of that even for a moment, you know. It doesn't last. And sometimes, it doesn't even feel real while it's happening. Because peace isn't the absence of problems. It's not a perfectly curated moment. And it's definitely not something the world can sell you in the form of routines, apps, or 10-step habits. What most people call peace is actually comfort. Temporary relief from noise. But true peace goes deeper than that. It's not about what's happening around you. It's about what's happening within you. And whether your inner world is in harmony or hiding something. Tolstoy began to notice this when his life looked ideal on paper, but felt quietly unbearable. He realized that even when nothing was wrong, he still couldn't rest. And that haunted him. Because it meant the problem wasn't the world. It was him. Or rather, the way he was living in the world. And that's the illusion. We're taught that peace is something to be arranged, acquired, or protected. But what if peace isn't something you find? What if it's something you become? Part 2, Tolstoy's Inner War, when everything seemed fine but felt wrong. From the outside, Tolstoy had won the game of life. He was revered across Russia and beyond. Critics called him a genius. His books were praised not just as literature, but as windows into the soul. He had money, land, family. He had purpose, or so everyone thought. But inside, something was wrong. Terribly wrong. He began to notice that no matter how much he accomplished, the feeling never lasted. After every success came a strange silence. Not peace, but a cold emptiness. A question echoing in the back of his mind. Now what? He tried to ignore it. He focused on work. He became even more productive. He tried to immerse himself in family, in social issues, in the responsibilities of a man of his status. But none of it silenced the deeper unrest. And then it got worse. The more his outer life flourished, the more his inner world crumbled. He couldn't sleep. He lost the ability to enjoy things he once loved. He wrote in his diary that he was afraid to be alone with his thoughts. Because when the world got quiet, the war inside him got loud. This is something many of us understand more than we want to admit. That haunting sense that even though your life checks all the boxes, you're still not okay. You smile through it. You keep going. But there's a fracture beneath the surface. And the more you try to patch it with achievement or affirmation, the wider it becomes. Tolstoy realized that he wasn't just tired. He wasn't just overworked. He was living out of alignment with something fundamental. Something the world around him couldn't name, but his soul couldn't forget. This wasn't depression in the clinical sense. It was something more existential. A kind of spiritual malnutrition. And until he faced it, not with distraction, but with honesty, peace would remain a stranger. Part 3: Why surface-level peace never lasts. We all crave peace. But most of what we call peace today is built on conditions. We tell ourselves, once I finish this project, I'll rest. Once I fix my relationship, I'll finally relax. Once I reach that goal, then I'll feel okay. But the peace we wait for never really arrives. Because every time we meet one condition, another takes its place. There's always something left to fix. Another task. Another demand. Another subtle fear pulling at the edges of our mind. This is what Tolstoy saw so clearly. That the peace he and most of society was chasing wasn't real peace. It was escape. A momentary silence between waves of anxiety. A manufactured calm held together by control. But true peace, he realized, doesn't come from controlling your environment. It comes from confronting the part of you that still feels fractured. Even when everything looks fine on the outside. He began to understand that surface-level peace is fragile. It depends on everything going right. It's the kind of peace that falls apart the moment something goes wrong. A phone call, a bill, an argument, a moment alone. And the reason it doesn't last is because it's built on top of fear. Not in the absence of it. Tolstoy's life was full of structure. He had landowners, assistants, wealth, reputation. But when he looked beneath all of it, he saw that his identity was held up by things that could be taken away. That's not peace. That's a performance. And many of us live this way too. Constantly adjusting, maintaining, protecting the image we've built. Hoping it will finally make us feel safe. But safety isn't peace. Silence isn't peace. Stillness isn't peace. Peace is only real when it doesn't depend on the world behaving. It's only real when it remains, even when nothing else does. That's the kind of peace Tolstoy began searching for. And it's the only kind that actually changes your life. Part 4: What Tolstoy discovered about the root of restlessness. The restlessness Tolstoy felt wasn't caused by noise. It wasn't about stress or failure or the demands of life. It was deeper, more subtle. It came from a disconnect between the life he was living and the truth he could no longer ignore. At first, he thought he needed to fix his routine, to simplify, to step back. But even in quiet moments, the agitation returned. He began to realize that his soul was not at war with the world. It was at war with his own way of living. He called it a lie lived too long. Not a lie in words, but a lie in actions. In values he no longer believed in roles he played to maintain peace on the outside, while his inner world crumbled. He had built a life on society's blueprint. Success equals peace. Reputation equals meaning. Family, legacy, comfort, that's the formula. But it didn't work. Because the formula wasn't built for the soul. It was built to keep the system running. Tolstoy began asking questions few dared to ask. What if I've built a life I don't truly believe in? What if the restlessness is trying to save me, not destroy me? What if peace only comes when I stop pretending and start aligning? That word alignment became everything. He realized his restlessness wasn't the enemy. It was a messenger. A signal from his conscience that the way he was living didn't reflect what he truly valued. And this is where most people turn back. Because to live in alignment often means sacrifice. It means letting go of identities that made you feel safe. It means confronting truths you've buried for years. It means disappointing others and facing yourself. But for Tolstoy, there was no other option left. He had tried every escape, and none of them brought peace. So instead of running, he started listening. And in that silence, he discovered something powerful. The reason he couldn't rest was because he hadn't yet lived a life that felt true. Part 5: The Invisible War Between the Soul and the World. There's a war that no one talks about. It's not fought with weapons. It's fought in silence between the world's expectations and your soul's truth. And most of us are caught in it every single day. The world wants you to be productive, to perform, to fit in, to follow the script, build, succeed, grow, smile, repeat. But your soul, it doesn't care about any of that. Your soul wants something different. Stillness, honesty, alignment. It wants your outer life to match your inner values, not your fear of rejection. It doesn't care how good you look or how busy you are, if none of it feels real. Tolstoy found himself trapped in this war. He had become a symbol, a literary legend, a moral voice, a man of vision. But he began to realize that his soul had become silent in all the applause. That while he was gaining the world, he was losing himself. He wrote about feeling like an actor, performing a life that looked meaningful but felt counterfeit. And no matter how convincing the performance, he couldn't trick the only audience that mattered, his own conscience. That's the invisible war. When your soul whispers one thing, and your world demands another. When you wake up tired, not because you didn't sleep, but because you spent all day playing a role that doesn't belong to you. And that exhaustion, that low-grade despair, that inability to feel at peace even in beautiful moments, comes from living a life that keeps your soul out of the equation. Tolstoy realized that true peace would never come from the world surrendering to his needs. It would only come when he surrendered to his truth. Even if that meant conflict. Even if it meant loss. Because the greater war wasn't with the world. It was within himself. And peace would only come when the war ended there first. Part 6. Why you must break away from external validation. One of the greatest obstacles to peace is approval. Not because being liked is wrong, but because being dependent on it is a prison so elegant. You don't even notice the bars. You start small. Doing what's expected, pleasing others, meeting deadlines, saying yes. But over time, you begin to shape your identity around applause. You only feel worthy when someone else says, "Good job." You only feel safe when no one is disappointed in you. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to betray yourself. This is what Tolstoy realized in the middle of his fame. That every compliment, every honor, every nod of respect was becoming a drug. It fed his ego, but starved his soul. He wasn't writing what he truly believed anymore. He was writing what was expected. He wasn't speaking his truth. He was maintaining an image. And the more he succeeded, the more imprisoned he felt. This is the cost of external validation. You might win the world's praise, but lose your own voice. You might feel seen but not known, admired but not at peace. And here's the tragedy. The world never really knows what it wants from you. It changes. It contradicts itself. It applauds you today and forgets you tomorrow. If your peace depends on something that inconsistent, you will never rest. Tolstoy's breakthrough was this. He stopped trying to be impressive. He started trying to be honest. He walked away from comfort. He questioned his own legacy. He gave up the safety of admiration for the discomfort of truth. And in doing so, he found something he'd never felt before. A peace that didn't need permission. And maybe that's the kind of peace your soul is asking for too. Not applause, but alignment. Not noise, but stillness. Part 7. The hidden power of embracing inner turmoil. Most people run from their inner turmoil. They treat discomfort as something to fix, avoid, or numb. So they reach for distractions, entertainment, work, food, relationships. Anything to quiet that quiet ache. But Tolstoy saw something different. He realized that the very thing we're trying to silence might be the only thing telling us the truth. His journals during his crisis aren't polished. They're raw, filled with doubt, fear, contradictions. He didn't pretend to be wise, he let the storm speak. And in that storm, he began to hear what silence had covered for years. He wrote, "Without knowing what I am and why I am here, life is impossible." It sounds bleak, and it was. But it was also honest. And in that honesty, something powerful awakened. He stopped trying to feel better and started trying to feel truth. That's the shift. Most of us just want to get back to normal, to calm things down, to feel okay again. But okay is often just a return to sleep, to forgetfulness, to pretending we're fine. Tolstoy chose something bolder. He chose to face the turbulence, to walk straight into it. And as he did, he found that the turmoil wasn't a curse. It was a teacher. It revealed what he valued. It exposed what he feared. and it pointed him, again and again, not toward escape, but toward alignment. And here's what's most surprising. The more he embraced the discomfort, the more peace began to grow. Not as a feeling, but as a presence, a knowing. He learned that peace isn't found by avoiding the storm. It's found by learning how to stand still inside of it. And that's something anyone can do. Not with force, but with courage, with honesty, with the willingness to say, I will no longer run from myself. Part 8, The Real Path to Peace, Tolstoy's Final Revelation. After all the questions, all the searching, all the breaking down, Tolstoy arrived at something radically simple and profoundly difficult. He realized that peace isn't something you find out there. It's not something you chase, earn, or even fully understand. It's something that grows when you stop betraying who you are. That was his final revelation, that the soul only rests when it's no longer at war with your life. Not your job, not your past, not your family, your life as it's being lived right now. And to live in a way that brings peace, you don't need perfection. You need integrity. Not the kind others praise, but the quiet kind. The kind where you know, in your bones, that you're not lying to yourself anymore. Tolstoy walked away from many things. His privilege, his wealth, his reputation, not because they were evil, but because they no longer matched his truth. And with every layer he let go, he found something new in its place. Clarity, stillness, peace. Not the kind of peace that floats above life, but the kind that anchors you deep within it. The kind that holds you steady when nothing else can. The kind that doesn't depend on external conditions, because it's rooted in something unshakable. Conscience. Tolstoy's final gift wasn't a philosophy. It was an invitation to live honestly, to stop pretending, to stop waiting for peace to come to you, and start creating it with every courageous, aligned choice you make. That's what he meant by his warning, that you'll never find peace until you understand that it begins not with answers, but with truth. And truth always begins inside you. Peace was never missing. You were just elsewhere. If you made it this far, it means something in this message was already living inside you. That part of you that's tired of performing, tired of running, tired of waiting for a life that finally feels real. Tolstoy searched everywhere through religion, status, brilliance, despair. And in the end, he didn't find peace in more answers. He found it in surrender, not to the world, but to his own soul. So let me ask you now, what truth have you been avoiding? What part of you have you silenced just to be accepted? What would happen if you stopped resisting the storm inside you and started listening to what it's been trying to show you? Because peace isn't something the world gives. It's something you build quietly, patiently, with integrity. One choice at a time. One moment of honesty at a time. One breath. In alignment with who you really are. And if this video touched something in you, don't let it be just another piece of content. Subscribe to continue this journey. We go deep every week, not chasing answers, but asking better questions. Leave a like if this message brought you clarity or comfort. Comment your thoughts. What truth are you finally ready to face? And if you're ready for more, click on the next video. You're not alone in this. You never were. And the deeper you go, the quieter everything becomes. That quiet? It's not emptiness. It's peace, and it's been waiting for you all along.